went to bleeding races, 'twas on the 9th of June, 1862 on a summer's afternoon. I took the bus to Banbury's and she was heavy laden. Away we went along Collingwood Street, that's on the road to bleeding.
You're watching TOON TV. I hope you are all staying safe. I hope you are all keeping well in these uncertain times. So just an update from Newcastle United alleged takeover by the PIF, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. The news broke out only a couple of days ago from The Guardian that apparently, allegedly, the takeover could be in jeopardy. That basically means the takeover might not be going through, it might actually collapse. And there could be fresh doubts of Newcastle United going forward. And that could signal longer for Mike Ashley as Newcastle United owner. Fingers crossed that's not the case. Now, the allegations that have been coming out is apparently they're going to be getting done for TV piracy, basically illegal streaming. And the World Trade Organization have been informed, and they've basically told the Premier League, if that's allegedly true, that the deal should not go through and that it could fail as part of the Premier League's fit and proper persons tests. Now, what I will say about that, from my opinion, is illegal streaming has been going for years and they've been found not guilty in a French court. Now, what makes you think that they're going to get found guilty this time? Because they've already been proven not guilty. I'm not saying that what they've done is exactly true or false. I don't actually know. Again, it's all alleged. It's only reports. You know, how much can you believe of the Guardian newspaper? Not very much. Can you believe much from any newspaper articles? No, not really. I only believe it when I see it on Sky Sports and the official Newcastle United website. The way I look at it is we've had a lot of obstacles, you know, thrown our way, from human rights to Richard Keys basically telling the Premier League and the government not to allow this deal to go through. And the way I look at it, it's just out of pure jealousy, you know, from, you know, a lot of journalists out there who don't support Newcastle United. I'm not saying that all journalists are jealous, but there's certainly a lot out there that don't want to see Newcastle United progress and do well. They just want to continue to see us suffer and to be laughed at because we've got Mike Ashley at the football club who doesn't share the same ambition as what we want to try and progress the club forward. Now, in terms of the human rights, that won't have a big say on the takeover. Apparently, we've passed that now, and it's only down to the TV piracy. Listen, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm not giving up because of what's happened about TV piracy. You know, this has been going around for a long time. There's been a lot of people, you know, around the world who watch football and other sports illegally. It happens. I don't condone it, but how do you know that these are found guilty of this? How can you say that these are, you know, true allegations? I just look at this, I think it's another obstacle which they want to throw at Newcastle United, but I think we're too far down the line. The Premier League, you know, they've been asked about the fit and proper persons test. So Richard Masters, who is the chief executive of the Premier League, he was asked about it over the weekend by a reporter called Dan Rowan, and he basically said, what's going to happen with the takeover? How do you conduct your fit and proper persons tests? And Richard Masters didn't really give too much away, and I think that's the right thing to do. He doesn't want to give out how the fit and proper persons tests, you know, go ahead, because at the end of the day, it's private and confidential information which they don't really want to be given out to the general public. And the Premier League, of course, there's a lot of money in it, and with that information, who knows, there could be, you know, going ahead with the fit and proper persons tests, but they can't, you know, give any hope to anybody. Newcastle United have failed to comment. They've never said anything about the alleged takeover, and I guess they're not really in a position to say anything because, again, it could be private and confidential, which I totally understand. But in terms of PIF, the way I look at it is they've got a vision. They've got a 2030 vision. You know, they've got investments elsewhere. Facebook, for example. Why does Newcastle United always be the problem in terms of a takeover? Like, when something sort of progresses, why are we getting looked upon as, no, it shouldn't go through, but others can have, you know, their investments? Why not Newcastle United? Do you know what it is? And why this is so confusing and why it's taken so long and why we're going round in circles is because this takeover is a big deal. And what I mean by a big deal is this could be the biggest takeover in Premier League history. Now, we know Manchester City, their owners are worth a lot of money. They've come from nowhere, from like mid-table getting Premier League titles, FA Cups, League Cups, etc. Their owners are worth in the region of 20 to 30 billion pounds. Now, the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he's worth estimated in the region of 260 billion pounds. Now, that for me is 10, 20 times more than what Manchester City owners are worth, and that is a lot of money. And I do understand other fans' concerns about, the Premier League's going to become less competitive. Well, I'm sorry, the Premier League was less competitive years ago when Chelsea were bought out, when Manchester City were bought out. It's always been the same top six sides, doing well and finishing in the same areas, getting European football. But bar Manchester City, they've been dominating the Premier League. Liverpool, they're now starting to have their moment. They're going to win the Premier League. But why can't Newcastle United get given a takeover? We're a big enough football club. We've got a big fan base. And yes, people say, well, all you've got is a big stadium. Yeah, but we could have better facilities if the current owner, shared enough love, to the football club and actually invested in better training facilities, better players, not selling with better players behind our backs and, fobbing off some of our better managers, like Chris Hughton, like a Kevin Keegan, like a Rafa Benitez. We could have achieved so much more in 13 years that Mike Ashley, for the past 4 or 5 years, has been wanting to sell the club, for the right price. And I'm not saying that he has allegedly taken, the £70 million deposit that has been laid to him by Amanda Staveley, the Reuben brothers, and the PIF. I'm not saying that he's officially got that, but it does sound positive. They're just reports. Now, with the Premier League, I wouldn't understand why they wouldn't go ahead with this takeover, because the government have basically said, we've got a good relationship with Saudi Arabia. They basically said to the Premier League, it's on your call. This is your league. It's where the money's at. It's up to you what you want to do with the PIF. Do you want them to be in your league or not? They have been given the impossible task of saying yes or no, because they are in a difficult position, to say yes or no, because it is big money. But I wouldn't understand why they wouldn't go ahead with this, because they're worth a lot of money. It would bring a lot more investment into the Premier League. With the pandemic, they would have lost a lot of money with fans, not going into the stadiums, because obviously there's been no football. In the Premier League, need more clubs, to compete. We used to compete many years ago, the entertainers, but that's all been forgotten about because of what Mike Ashley's done in 13 years, that he hasn't allowed the club to reach its full potential. We've never really competed. Under Mike Ashley, we've had, 1 5th place finish in a quarter final of the Europa League. I mean, that's nothing really to write home about. You could say, yeah, we've had a League Cup quarter final against Tottenham Hotspur in the League Cup under Pardew. You could say the current FA Cup quarter final, but we've had 2 relegations and players not really wanting to fulfill their careers at Newcastle United long term because of Mike Ashley. But with new ownership, we can finally get better training facilities. We can actually progress as a football club. That's what I want to see. It's not a case of I want to see Newcastle United buy titles. Of course, I want to see money spent on the squad. I do want to see better players. Of course I do. Every fan would like to see that. But I want to see Newcastle United reach its full potential, competing, in the League Cup, the FA Cup, going on to win the Premier League, competing in the Champions League. I mean, you can't beat a Champions League night at St James's Park or even the Europa League. The game we had against Benfica under Pardew, these are unforgettable nights, regardless if a win, lose or draw. We love our European nights, and you can't beat St James's Park. And under Mike Ashley, it's been a case of none of that. And with new ownership, we can attract the best players. It's not a case of, yeah, we want to be, the so-called plastic club or anything like that. We're Newcastle United Football Club. I'm not saying we'll have a divine right to be taken over, but we deserve some sort of investment, which we haven't had. Under Mike Ashley, it's been skeleton-based, very, very little. And we've had to, sort of scrape the barrel, if you like, and Mike Ashley has creamed off the top for the past 13 years. And he knows now that his time's up. His businesses are struggling. Sports Direct, House of Fraser. How can he run those businesses and run Newcastle United at the same time? We're crying out for investment. We're crying out for some sort of ambition. And we've waited a long time. And I would be sort of very disappointed if it comes down to TV piracy. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if the takeover didn't go through, because we've been down this route so many times before. But Mike Ashley now knows that his time's up. And I just want to see Newcastle United in better hands. I'm not saying that these new owners could be the way forward, because owners can talk the talk and not walk the walk. It's been done, with Blackburn, etc., where they've had owners in and it's just not gone the right way. QPR. But I do believe with Newcastle United, with these owners, that we can go to that next level. Why would they want to buy Newcastle United if they didn't have a vision for the club? They've got a 2030 vision. And like I say, they've got investments elsewhere. If you're going to question this takeover of Newcastle United, my club, then you've got to question all the other investments that they've got. And yeah, you could say, well, they're completely different to football. But I just don't understand what people's hatred is towards Newcastle United. People could say, well, actually, these have got blood money. That's what you'll have. Listen, we don't have a say on who buys the club. We don't have a say on who, runs the football club on a day-by-day basis. We didn't ask for Mike Ashley. We didn't ask for the PIF if they're going to allegedly come in. We just want to see the club move in the right direction and to see somebody communicate with the fans, which is something we've lacked, for the past 13 years. And listen, yes, it is going to have its complications and this is going to rumble on, but I don't think this will be the last that we hear of this takeover. I don't think that this takeover will not go through. I think it will go through, and I'm going to stay positive, because at the end of the day, if this takeover wasn't going to go through and it was going to get blocked, it would have been blocked many weeks ago. The Premier League have basically said, and given a lot away, that they're not going to get involved in terms of saying that all the takeover's not going to go through or it's in jeopardy, because they've pretty much said that we're still dealing with the PIF, Amanda Staveley and the Reuben brothers, to try and finalise a takeover. And listen, it is a big deal. It's a lot of money. £260 billion. That is a big deal, not just for the Premier League, but for football in general. And it could be a totally new way of life for Newcastle United, our club, our fan base. It could have a massive say on how the Premier League functions in the next 5 to 10 years. Listen, we could start winning back-to-back Premier League titles. Listen, I'd welcome that every single year. I don't know how fans can say, I'm bored of winning things. I would love to see Newcastle United win trophy on trophy on trophy on trophy every single season until I pass away, because I go to see Newcastle United, the club, the squad, produce on the pitch and to win games and to win trophies. That's what you're a football fan for. You're there to see the good times. And listen, we've had Richard Keys come out in the past and say, Newcastle United shouldn't get bought out, it's this, that, whatever. Listen, he's an absolute clown. I can't stand Richard Keys. I think it's all down to jealousy, but jealousy gets you nowhere in life. And listen, I'll wait as long as it takes. I've said from the very start, it could happen by the end of this month. I didn't say a specific date. I know there's been rumours of June the 1st, but listen, it happens when it happens. And while there's no red flags and while there's no blockages, let's just stay confident. Let's just stay patient. I know Mike Ashley will give up the club eventually. I can't see him, sticking around, man. It's a case of we need to move in the right direction. And will Mike Ashley go back into football if he sells the club? I don't think he will. I don't think it would make any sense. If he does take on a club, it would be in the Championship. I don't think he'd go to Sunderland. I know there's been talk of that. I think that's absolute bollocks in my opinion. Why would you want to go from one toxic fan base, which he's made in us, to Sunderland, where we are rivals with them? That just wouldn't make any sense. I know they've had a few problems with Stuart Donald and that, but in terms of Newcastle, listen, we'll wait and see what happens over the next few days. We'll just take it day by day, and the longer that this deal, is in the pipeline, we can remain confident. And these deals, if takeovers, they're not things that happen overnight. Sometimes it can take a month, 2 months. Nobody knows the timescale. The Premier League right now are dealing with Project Restart. That is the big thing that they're focusing on right now. The Newcastle United takeover will be sort of down there rather than the first thing that they're dealing with right now. And there's a lot going on in terms of the pandemic as well. So it's a case of just watch this space, keep allowing the weeks to drag on, and we will get something eventually. We will get a notice from either Newcastle United, hopefully the PIF, or the Premier League to say that something's happening. But it's a case of just sitting, be patient, stay calm, don't throw your toys out the pram and get all depressed or annoyed about it, because at the end of the day, Newcastle United and the Premier League have never once said that this deal is official, this takeover is official. It's only been broken out by, the newspapers, and you just don't know who to believe. But listen, there's been talks of green lights and stuff, so let's just keep the faith. And like I always say, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter, TOON TV. And as I always say, last but not least, keep it TOON. Cheerio.